What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. In most cases, this is a review of stories you've already heard about. Reviewing these events keeps them fresh in your mind and allows your mind to think of new ways in which these events may actually affect you. So, of course, I recommend watching the episode in its entirety, but I'm a realist. 50 minutes or so of me talking might get a little rough, so I break down the episode into snippets with each story. I list the breakpoints along with the respective story in the description below, and you can also see it in the timeline. You can at least see the breaks in the timeline, so feel free to just jump around to stories that you are specifically interested in. Now, if you like these episodes, of course, I ask you to like this episode, and if you're not already, subscribe to my channel. With that, let's jump right in. We're going to start off with the top 5 attack vectors for 2021. Malicious actors are continually looking for better ways to carry out successful cyber attacks. Whether motivated by a potential payday or the ability to access confidential information, cyber criminals have plenty of incentive to focus on what works best in achieving their goals. This article focuses on the top 5 attack vectors organizations should look out for and defend against in 2022. We start off with phishing. Phishing techniques use social engineering to trick victims into taking an action that helps an attacker compromise your network or access your sensitive information assets. Fraudulent emails purporting to be from authoritative company sources are the main phishing attacks that employees fall victim to. These emails persuade employees to reveal passwords for important applications or download malicious files to their devices. Some threat actors carry out phishing attacks using social media and networking platforms, such as Twitter or LinkedIn. Phishing scams remain such a widely used attack vector because of their efficiency. The potential rewards for very little effort make phishing scams highly attractive attack vectors requiring minimal technical knowledge. Stolen credentials. Stolen credentials continue to cause problems for businesses of all sizes. A 2021 report on data breaches found that stolen credentials were the initial attack vector used in 61% of breaches. Using stolen passwords is an easy way to masquerade as a genuine user and access sensitive information or infiltrate deeper into your network. The problems posed by stolen credentials stem from a perfect storm of poor password hygiene and weak identity and access management controls. Employees regularly reuse their passwords across multiple applications and services, which means that a single stolen password could provide an easy entry route into your network. Many organizations provide excessive access privileges to users, which worsens the impact of a credential compromise by giving hackers access to administrative functions or critical systems. API exploits. Organizations can create new opportunities for growth through the use of APIs, which integrate their applications and service with other resources in the wider digital ecosystem. APIs facilitate communication between different apps and services. The use of APIs has become so widespread that many technologists say we're living in an API economy. Ever on the lookout for new opportunities to get their hands on sensitive data, many threat actors realize that the proliferation of APIs may work to their advantage. Traditional security tactics cannot detect API attacks, so many organizations remain open to a breach or data exfiltration via APIs. Remote technology. The speed at which cyber attacks exploiting remote technology increased during the COVID-19 pandemic serves as a telling example of how threat actors dynamically adapt to the attack vectors they use in response to changing conditions. A 2020 report found that 20% of organizations experienced a security breach due to remote work. The technologies used by organizations to facilitate remote work include virtual private networks, or virtual private network connections, and remote desktop protocol, RDP. These technologies let employees access business applications and resources from outside the physical location of their place of work. While the use of remote technology will likely reduce over time compared to the height of the pandemic, it's clear that remote work is here to stay in some capacity. Opportunistic threat actors know that with remote work not going away, there will be chances to gain entry to corporate networks by exploiting RDP and VPN connections. An actionable way to defend against remote access threats is to require multi-factor authentication, or MFA, for these connections. MFA requires users to provide another category of evidence that verifies their identity in addition to the standard username-password combination they use to log in. These distinct pieces of evidence can include a one-time password or a fingerprint scan. IoT devices. IoT devices include wearable devices, coffee makers, sensors, and cameras. all of which connect to the internet. Many organizations don't have visibility into all of their IoT devices. Furthermore, it's common for IoT devices to use default credentials that hackers can easily guess. IoT devices are veritable storehouses of data about the environment they are in and the people that use them. A cyber attack on an IoT device could also be the initial entry point from which a hacker accesses your wider network and installs ransomware that locks down key systems. Organizations need a serious approach to secure their IoT infrastructures, including full device visibility, changing default usernames and passwords, using strong passwords, segmenting the network so that an IoT compromise can't spread to key IT systems and assets, and updating IoT devices on time. We move on to phishing. Financially motivated threat actors are using cookie theft malware in phishing attacks against YouTube creators since late 2019. According to Google's Threat Analysis Group, or TAG, researchers who spotted the campaign, the attacks were launched by multiple hack-for-hire actors recruited on Russian-speaking forums. The hackers used fake collaboration opportunities like a demo for antivirus software or VPN or music players, photo editing, or online games to hijack the channel of the YouTube creators. Once hijacked, the channel attackers either sell it to the highest bidder or employ it in cryptocurrency scam schemes. Hijack channels range from $3 to $4,000 depending on the number of subscribers. The malware landing page is disguised as a software download URL that was sent via email or a PDF on Google Drive, or via Google Documents containing the phishing links. The researchers identified around 15,000 actor accounts, most of which were created for this campaign. Experts also observed the attackers driving targets to messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, or Discord because Google is able to neutralize phishing attempts via Gmail. Upon running the fake software, a cookie-stealing malware will be executed. The malware steals the browser cookies from the infected machine and sends them to the command and control servers. Experts noticed that all the malware involved in this campaign runs in a non-persistent mode. Some of the malicious codes used in this campaign are RedLine, Vidar, Predator, the Thief, Nexus Stealer, Azerult, Raccoon, Grand Stealer, Vicro Stealer, Mossad, and Cantal, along with open source malware like Serrano and Adamantium Thief. Once delivered on the target systems, the malware was used to steal their credentials and browser cookies, which allowed the attackers to hijack the victims' accounts in past the cookie attacks. While the technique has been around for decades, its resurgence as a top security risk could be due to a wider adoption of multi-factor authentication, making it difficult to conduct abuse and shifting attacker focus to social engineering tactics, said Ashley Shen, a TAG security engineer. The Fin7 hacking group is attempting to enter in the ransomware business and is doing it with an interesting technique. The gang space creates fake cybersecurity companies that hire experts, requesting them to carry out pen testing attacks under the guise of pen testing activities. Fin7 is a Russian criminal group that has been active since mid-2015. It focuses on restaurants, gambling, and hospitality industries in the U.S. to harvest financial information that was used in attacks or sold in cybercrime marketplaces. One of the companies created by the cybercriminal organization with this purpose is Combi Security, but researchers from Gemini Advisory discovered other similar organizations by analyzing the site of another fake cybersecurity company named Bastion Security. The Bastion Security website is hosted on the Russian domain registrar Biget, which is popular in the Russian cybercrime communities. Most of the submenus of the site return a Russian language HTTP 404 error, a circumstance that suggests the site creators were Russian speakers. At the time of the report, some of the HTTP 404 errors remain unfixed. The website is a clone of the website of Convergent Network Solutions Limited. Bastion Secure's About page states that it is a spin-off of the legitimate cybersecurity company that is in any way not linked to the criminal gang. Fin7, operating under the guise of Bastion Secure, published job offers for programmers, PHP, C++, Python, systems administrators, and reverse engineers. The job offers for IT specialist positions range between $800 and $1,200 a month, which is a good salary for this type of position in, say, post-Soviet states. The gang was looking for administrators to map out compromised companies' networks and locate sensitive data, including backups. The initial access to the target organizations was obtained through phishing attacks or by purchasing access on dark web forums. Once access is gained to the target network, the threat actors could then drop malware and ransomware. we move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. TV stations owned by the Sinclair Broadcast Group went down over the weekend officially due to a technical issue. But some media reported that it was a victim of a ransomware attack. The alleged attack compromised the Sinclair internal corporate network, the broadcasting systems of TV stations, email servers, and phone services were impacted. Sinclair Broadcast Group is a Fortune 500 media company. The group is a publicly traded American telecommunications conglomerate having annual revenues of $5.9 billion in 2020. The company is the second largest television station operating in the United States by number of stations. It owns or operates a total of 193 stations across the country in over 100 markets, covering 40% of the American households. The company operates many stations affiliated with Fox, ABC, and the CW. Sources have told Bleeping Computer that ransomware operators shut down Active Directory services for the domain, paralyzing the services at the company and its affiliates. Now, the ransomware attack is attributed to REvil Corp. I did an episode on this in one of my dailies, so if you want to learn more about that, check it out. The TA505 Cybercrime Group is whirring its financial rip-off machinery back up, pelting malware at a range of industries in what was initially low-volume waves that researchers saw spiral up late last month. They do bad things, but they're so tricky that tracking them is a ton of fun, said Sherrod DeGrippo, Vice President, Threat Research and Detection at Proofpoint. Tracking TA505 is one of life's guilty little pleasures, she admitted. They are a trailblazer in the world of cybercrime, regularly changing up their techniques and procedures. TA505, aka Hive 0065, is a gang of cybercriminals involved in both financial swindles and state-sponsored actions. Proofpoint researchers describe the group as being one of the more prolific actors that they track. It's behind the biggest spam campaigns the firm has ever seen, namely distribution of the Geriatric banking Trojan. Proofpoint has also tracked the gang distributing Locky and Jaff ransomwares, the Trick banking Trojan, and others in very high volumes. TA505, which actively targets a slew of industries including finance, retail, and restaurants, has been active since at least 2014. It's known for frequent malware switch-ups and for driving global trends in criminal malware distribution. The most recent bout of campaigns is reminiscent of TA505's activity from 2019 and 2020, but it doesn't lack for some intriguing new elements, DeGrippo said, including spiffed up tools and exotic languages. In addition to updating the FlawedGrace Remote Access Trojan, or RAT, they also overhauled their intermediate loader stages, replacing trusty Get2 with several new downloaders that are coded in unusual scripting languages. Again, this is directly out of one of my dailies, so go over to my channel and check out the daily if you want more information. The Tianfu Cup is the most important hacking contest held in China. This year, white hat hackers earned $1.88 million demonstrating vulnerabilities in popular software, including a fully patched iOS 15 running on an iPhone 13. The edition of this year took place on October 16th and 17th in the city of Chengdu. Participants had 3 attempts of 5 minutes to demonstrate their exploits. The winner is a security firm, Kunlun Lab, who earned $654,500 below the tweet of the amazing expert at MJ0011, CEO of Cyber Kunlun and Kunlun Lab, and former CTO of Kihu 360 and founder of Team 360 Vulcan. One of the exploits demonstrated at the contest immediately attracted the attention of the media. It is a zero-click remote code execution exploit against a fully patched iOS 15 running on the latest iPhone 13. The Qian Penggu won the highest single bonus in the history of this competition for his exploit, $300,000. This year's edition included a list of 16 possible targets. Participants successfully demonstrated exploits against 13 of them. Windows 10 was hacked 5 times, Adobe PDF Reader 4 times, Ubuntu 20 4 times, Parallels VM 3 times, iOS 15 3 times, Apple Safari 2 times, Google Chrome 2 times, ASUS AX562 router 2 times, Docker CE 1 time, VMware ESXi 1 time, VMware Workstation 1 time, QEMU VM 1 time, and Microsoft Exchange 1 time. The vast majority of stolen credentials currently sold on 2 dark web underground markets have been collected using the RedLine Stealer malware, Instinct Group, the cybersecurity research arm of Recorded Future, has discovered. First spotted in March 2020, the RedLine Stealer is part of the InfoStealer family, a type of malware that once it infects a computer, its primary purpose is to collect as much user data as possible and then send it to the attackers, who typically put it up for sale. Data collection capabilities included with the RedLine Stealer include the ability to extract login credentials from web browsers, FTP clients, email apps, instant messaging clients, and VPNs. In addition, RedLine can also extract authentication to cookies and card numbers stored inside browsers, chat logs, local files, and cryptocurrency wallet databases. Initially developed by a programmer named RedGlade, The malware has been sold on several underground hacking forums since March 2020. After the Stealer received positive reviews in a hacking forum thread, pirated versions of the RedLine Stealer were also released on hacking forums a few months later, in August of this year, allowing it to spread to even more threat actors who didn't have to pay for it. But even prior to the release of the cracked version, RedLine had undeniably found a loyal customer base. According to the Insict Group report published last week, the vast majority of stolen credentials that are being offered for sale on two underground markets originate from systems that were infected with the RedLine Stealer. Both Amigos Market and Russian Market were identified by Insict Group in June 2021, posting identical listings regularly that contained the same timestamps. InfoStealer variants used geographical locations of affected machines and ISPs, Insict researchers said. The Uptick's threat research team recently identified a campaign in which the TeamTNT threat actors deployed a malicious container image hosted on Docker Hub with an embedded script to download zgrab, scanner, and mass scanner, penetration testing tools used for banner grabbing and port scanning, respectively. Using these scanning tools inside the malicious Docker image, the threat actor tries to scan for more targets in the victim's subnet and perform further malicious activities. Criminal groups continue to target Docker Hub, GitHub, and other shared repositories with container images and software components that include malicious scripts and tools. They often aim to spread coin miner malware, hijacking the computing resources of victims to mine cryptocurrency. The Uptick's threat research team reported the Docker image hosted in the Docker Hub website to the security team on September 30th, 2021, excuse me. An out-of-bounds read vulnerability in the Squirrel programming language lets attackers break out of the sandbox restrictions and execute arbitrary code within a Squirrel virtual machine, thus giving a malicious actor complete access to the underlying machine. Given where Squirrel lives, in games and embedded in the Internet of Things, the bug potentially endangers the millions of monthly gamers who play video games such as Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and Portal 2, as well as cloud services IoT platforms with ready-to-use open-source code libraries. Squirrel is an open-source, object-oriented programming language used by video games and cloud services for customizing and plug-in development. It's a lightweight scripting language that suits the size, memory bandwidth, and real-time requirements of applications like video games and embedded systems. Both of the games mentioned above use the Squirrel Engine game library to enable anyone to create custom game modes and maps. Tracked as CVE 2021-41556, the Squirrel out-of-bounds read vulnerability can be exploited when a Squirrel engine is used to execute untrusted code, as it is with certain video games. An attacker could trigger the vulnerability by creating a class definition with 0x02000005 methods and 0x1 fields, accessing the method with the corresponding index of 0x02000005. The isField macro returns true for this index as the bit flag of 0x02000000 is set, and the default values array is accessed with the index of 0x5. However, it only contains 0x1 entries, and thus the attacker has accessed out of bounds. The vulnerability is dangerous because a malicious actor could set up a fake array that could read and write values. By doing so themselves, the researchers found they could hijack the control flow of the program and gain full control of the Squirrel VM, which they did by overriding function pointers. An apt described as a lone wolf is exploiting a decades-old Microsoft flaw to deliver a barrage of commodity rats to the organizations in India and Afghanistan. Attackers use political and government-themed malicious domains as lures in the campaign, which targets mobile devices with out-of-the-box rats such as DC Rat and Quasar Rat for Windows and Android Rat. They're delivering the rats in malicious documents by exploiting CVE 2017-11882, according to a report published Tuesday by Cisco Talos. The threat group, tracked as by Cisco Talos from the beginning of the year through the summer, disguised itself behind a front that seems legitimate, posing as a Pakistani IT firm called Bunse Technologies. CVE 2017-11882 is a more than 20-year-old memory corruption vulnerability in Microsoft Office that persisted for 17 years before the company patched it in 2017. However, as recently as 2 years ago, attackers were seen exploiting the bug, which allows them to run malicious code automatically without requiring user interaction. The advanced precision threat behind the campaign also uses a custom file enumerator and infector in the reconnaissance phase of the two-step attack, followed by a second phase added in later versions of the campaign that deploys the ultimate rat payload. A host of the malware payloads, the threat actor registered multiple domains with political and government themes used to fool victims, particularly ones linked to diplomatic and humanitarian efforts in Afghanistan to target entities in that country. This campaign is a classic example of an individual threat actor employing political, humanitarian, and diplomatic themes in a campaign to deliver commodity malware to victims. In this case, rats, packed with multiple functionalities to achieve complete control over the victim's endpoint, Cisco Talos Ashir Malhotra wrote in the post. Again, one of the episodes, one of my dailies, covered this article in its completeness, so run over to my channel if you want to watch the full episode. Bad news for Russian drivers. Threat actors are selling a database containing 50 million records belonging to Moscow drivers on a hacking forum for only $800. The threat actors claim to have obtained the data from an insider in the local police. They published a sample of database records containing model of the car, is registered in VIN number, data registration, engine power, name of the owner, date of birth, and phone number. Stolen. Data spans from 2006 to 2019. Local media outlets have confirmed their authenticity. Threat actors are also offering a file containing information from 2020 to those that will buy the database. The availability of this data in the cybercrime underground poses serious risks to the exposed individuals. Attackers can use the information to carry out several malicious activities. How the data was obtained is speculation right now. Some say that they got it from insiders in the traffic division of the Russian police. Others believe it was a real hack of the networks. Either way, those people whose data was breached could face phishing scams, identity theft, fraud, and much, much, much more. The REvil ransomware gang has shut down its operation once again after a threat actor has hijacked their Tor leak site and payment portal. The news of the hack was shared by the REvil representative Zero in a Day on the XSS hacking forum. He initially confirmed that someone has compromised the server, and then he later denied it. Zero in a Day added that someone brought up the REvil hidden services using the private keys of their former spokesperson, whose name was unknown. He also said that the gang did not find signs of compromise to the servers, and they have decided to shut down the operation. REvil operators will provide the decryption keys to the affiliates to allow them to continue their operations. Researchers from Imperva have spotted a new deceptive ad injection campaign that is targeting users of some large websites leveraging an ad blocking extension named AllBlock that is available on both Chrome and Opera browsers. Ad injection consists of inserting unauthorized advertisements into a publisher's web page to trick users into clicking on them. Ad injection can be conducted in many ways, such as using malicious browser extensions, malware, and cross-site scripting attacks. The researchers discovered a series of rogue domains distributing an ad injection script in late August 2021 that they linked to an extension called AllBlock. AllBlock, employed by the operators behind this campaign, implements several techniques to avoid detection and make the analysis harder, including clearing the debug console every 100 milliseconds and excluding major search engines. Imperva researchers linked this campaign to an older one, tracked as PHISHING campaign, that used the same domain names and IP addresses. The malicious ad-blocking Chrome extension has been removed from both the Chrome Web Store and Opera add-ons marketplaces. Cisco addressed a high-severity operating system command injection vulnerability tracked as CV 2021-1529 in Cisco SD-WAN that could allow privilege escalation and lead to arbitrary code execution. Cisco SD-WAN is a cloud-delivered overlay WAN architecture that enables digital and cloud transformation at enterprises. It allows to connect disparate office locations via the cloud. An authenticated local attacker can exploit the CVE 2021-1529 vulnerability to execute arbitrary commands with root privileges. The CVE 2021-1529 received a CVSS score of 7.8. The vulnerability is due to insufficient input validation by the system CLI. An attacker could exploit this vulnerability by authenticating to an affected device and submitting crafted input to the system CLI. A successful exploit could allow the attacker to execute commands on the underlying operating system with root privileges, reads the advisory published by IT Giant. Cisco has released software updates to address this flaw. The company pointed out that there are no workarounds that fix this issue. The Cisco PSIRT is not aware of attacks in the wild exploiting this vulnerability. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency also published a security advisory for this flaw that urges organizations to address this vulnerability. TrickBot is a popular banking Trojan that has been around since October 2016. Its authors have continuously upgraded it by implementing new features. Operators continue to offer the botnet through a multi-purpose malware as a service model. Threat actors leverage the botnet to distribute a broad range of malware, including info stealer and ransomware such as Conti and Ryok. To date, the TrickBot botnet has already infected more than 1 million computers. In October, Microsoft Defender Team, FSISAC, ESET, Lumen's Black Lotus Labs, NTT, and Broadcom Cybersecurity Division Symantec joined forces and announced a coordinated effort to take down the command and control infrastructure of the infamous TrickBot botnet. Even if Microsoft and its partners have brought down the TrickBot infrastructure, the operators behind the infamous TrickBot, ITG23 and Wizard Spider malware, have resurfaced with new distribution channels to deliver malicious payloads such as Karma Ransomware. According to IBM, the TrickBot gang, aka ITG23 or Wizard Spider, has now added powerful additional distribution tactics to its bag of tricks, thanks to the 2 new affiliates. Earlier this year, the TrickBot gang primarily relied on email campaigns, delivering Excel documents and a call center ruse known as Bazaar Call to deliver its payloads to corporate users. IBM researchers said in a Wednesday analysis. However, the new affiliates have added the use of hijacked email threads and fraudulent website customer inquiry forms. This move not only increased the volume of its delivery attempts, but also diversified delivery methods with the goal of infecting more potential victims than ever. Bazaar Call is a distribution tactic that starts with emails offering trial subscriptions to various services, with a phone number listed to call customer service to avoid being charged money. If someone calls, a call center operator answers and directs victims to a website to purportedly unsubscribe from the service, a process the agent walks the caller through. University researchers in the U.S. have developed a new fingerprint capturing and browser spoofing attack called Gummy Browsers. They warn how easy the attack is to carry out and the severe implications it can have. A digital fingerprint is a unique online identifier associated with a particular user based on a combination of a device's characteristics. These characteristics could include a user's IP address, browser and operating system version, installed applications, active add-ons, cookies, and even how the user moves their mouse or types on the keyboard. Websites and advertisers can use these fingerprints to confirm a visitor is a human, track a user between sites, or for targeted advertising. Fingerprints are also used as a part of some authentication systems, allowing multi-factor authentication or other security features to potentially be bypassed if a valid fingerprint is detected. Digital fingerprints are so valuable that they are sold on dark web marketplaces, allowing threat actors and scammers to spoof users' online fingerprints to take over accounts more easily or conduct ad fraud. The Gummy Browsers attack is the process of capturing a person's fingerprint by making them visit an attacker-controlled website and then using that fingerprint on a target platform to spoof that person's identity. After generating a fingerprint of a user using existing or custom scripts, the researchers developed the following method to spoof the user on those sites. Script injection, spoofing the victim's fingerprint by executing scripts within Selenium that serve values extracted by the JavaScript API calls. Browser setting and debugging tool. Both can be used to change the browser attributes to any custom value, affecting both the JavaScript API and the corresponding value in the HTTP header. Script modification, changing the browser properties with spoofed values by modifying the scripts embedded in the website before they are sent to the web server. The researchers state that threat actors can easily use the Gummy Browsers attack to trick systems utilizing fingerprinting. The Gummy Browsers attack may also help bypass security features used to detect legitimate users in authentication services. Examples of authentication systems that use fingerprinting include Oracle, InAuth, and SecureAuth IDP. Symantec spotted a previously unknown nation-state actor tracked as Harvester that is using a custom implant dubbed backdoor.graphon in attacks aimed at telecommunication providers, IT firms, and government entities in South Asia. At this time, the app group is mostly targeting organizations in Afghanistan. The Harvester group uses both custom malware and publicly available tools in its attacks, which began in June 2021, with the most recent activity seen in October 2021. Sectors targeted include telecommunications, government, and information technology. The capabilities of the tools, their custom development, and the victims targeted all suggest that Harvester is a nation-state-backed actor, reads the analysis published by Symantec. The threat actors deployed the Graphon backdoor on victim machines alongside other downloaders and screenshot tools to take over systems, exfiltrate sensitive data, and spy on user activities. Symantec researchers have yet to discover the initial attack vector. Experts believe that the attackers could have used spear phishing messages sharing a malicious URL. The cyber spies leverage legitimate CloudFront and Microsoft infrastructure for its command and control activity in the attempt to evade detection. A list of tools used by the Harvester group in the attack spotted by the researchers: backdoor.graphon, which is a custom backdoor that uses Microsoft infrastructure for its command and control activity; custom downloader, which uses Microsoft infrastructure for its command and control activity; custom screenshotter, periodically logs screenshots to a file; Cobalt Strike Beacon uses CloudFront infrastructure for its command and control activity. Cobalt Strike is an off-the-shelf tool that can be used to execute commands, inject other processes, evaluate current processes, or impersonate other processes, and upload and download files. Metasploit, an off-the-shelf modular framework that can be used for a variety of malicious purposes on victim machines, including privilege escalation, screen capture to set up a persistent backdoor, and more. The downloader leverages the Costura assembly loader. It prepares the environment on the target system by adding a registry value for a new load point and eventually opening it an embedded web browser within its own UI using the URL uselist.com. The custom screenshot tool allows operators to take photos that are saved in a password-protected zip archive for exfiltration. The malware deletes all archives older than a week. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency published an advisory to warn of the discovery of a crypto mining malware in the popular NPM Package UAParser.js. The popular library has millions of weekly downloads. It's used in apps and websites to discover the type of device or browser a person is using from user agent data. A computer or device with the affected software installed or running could allow a remote attacker to obtain sensitive information or take control of the system, reads the advisory. CISA urges users and administrators using compromised UAParser.js versions 0.7.29, 0.8.0, and 1.0.0 to update to the respective patched versions of 0.7.3, 0.8.1, or 1.0.1. The analysis of the experts revealed that at least 3 tainted versions of the package were uploaded to the repository, versions 0.7.29, 0.8.0, and 1.0.0. According to the maintainer of the library, Faisal Salman, a threat actor has hijacked his NPM account to publish the infected packages. The CISA's alert comes a few days after the researchers from the security firm Sonatype have uncovered crypto mining malware hidden inside 3 JavaScript libraries uploaded on the official NPM package repository. The name of the 3 NPM packages were Clo, Clown, and Oxa that were installing cryptocurrency miners on both Windows or Linux platforms. The Groove ransomware gang is calling on other ransomware groups to attack U.S. public sector after an operation of law enforcement shut down the infrastructure of the REvil gang. The ransomware group REvil was itself hacked and forced offline this week by a multi-country operation, according to 3 private sector cyber experts working with the United States and 1 former official, reported the Reuters agency. The ransomware gang published a message in Russian language on its leak site. The message also asks other ransomware gangs to avoid targeting Chinese companies because China could represent a safe place for ransomware gangs in case Russia will stop tolerating ransomware operations. In our difficult and troubled time when the U.S. government is trying to fight us, I call on all partner programs to stop competing, unite, and start effing up the U.S. public sector, states the message. I urge not to attack Chinese companies because where do we pinch if our homeland suddenly turns away from us? Only to our good neighbors, the Chinese. After the news of the recent shutdown of REvil's infrastructure by law enforcement agencies, the gangs behind the dark side and black matter ransomware operations have also moved 107 Bitcoin, roughly $6.8 million around. So this shutting down of REvil is having rippling effects throughout the ransomware industry. A hacker has breached the Argentinian government's IT network and stolen ID card details for the country's entire population, data that is now being sold in private circles. The hack, which took place last month, targeted RENAPER, which stands for Registro Nacional de las Personas, translated as National Registry of Persons. The agency is a crucial cog inside the Argentinian Interior Ministry, where it is tasked with issuing national ID cards to all citizens, data that it also stores in digital format as a database accessible to other government agencies, acting as a backbone for most government queries for citizens' personal information. When the record shared a link to the government's press release in which officials blamed the intrusion on a possibly compromised VPN account, the hacker simply replied, "Careless employees, yes," indirectly confirming the point of entry. According to a sample provided by the hacker online, the information they have access to right now includes full names, home addresses, birth dates, gender info, ID card issuance and expiration dates, labor identification codes, TREML numbers, citizen numbers, and government photo IDs. JFrog researchers have discovered multiple unprotected instances of open source event monitoring solution Prometheus that may leak sensitive data. The solution scrapes real-time metrics from multiple endpoints. It is used by several major organizations such as Uber. Prometheus's retrieval job, also called the scraper, pulls data from target services, aggregates it, and passes it to the database. JFrog researchers discovered numerous Prometheus endpoints exposed online that leak metric and label data. They were able to perform a large-scale unauthenticated scraping of publicly available and non-secured installs. In January, the transport layer security and basic authentication support was introduced with the release of version 2.24.0. Unfortunately, many Prometheus installs haven't yet enabled these security features, and JFrog researchers have focused their analysis on them. JFrog performed a large-scale unauthenticated scraping of publicly available and non-secured Prometheus endpoints. JFrog found nearly 27,000 unsecured installs using the Shodan search engine and 43,000 hosts using ZoomEye. PHISHING is a new rootkit discovered by researchers from Bitdefender. It is able to evade detection by abusing a Microsoft-issued digital signature. Driver packages that pass Windows Hardware Lab kit testing can be digitally signed by Microsoft WHQL, Windows Hardware Quality Labs. If your driver package is digitally signed by WHQL, it can be distributed through the Windows Update Program or other Microsoft-supported distribution mechanisms. Obtaining a WHQL release signature is part of the Windows Hardware Lab kit. A WHQL release signature consists of a digitally signed catalog file. Microsoft is aware that VXers have devised a method to digitally sign their rootkits through this process. After Bitdefender has reported the discovery, Microsoft has revoked the signature of PHISHING. In June, the company announced it is investigating a threat actor distributing malicious drivers and attacks aimed at the gaming industry in China. The actor submitted drivers that were built by a third party for certification through the Windows Hardware Compatibility Program. One of the drivers, signed by Microsoft called NetFilter, was a malicious Windows rootkit that was spotted while connecting to a command and control server in China. The IT giant pointed out that its WHCP signing certificate was not exposed and that its infrastructure was not compromised by hackers. The PHISHING rootkit uses the same technique to remain under the radar. It is very similar to the Undead malware and likely originated from China, where it's used to target domestic games. The rootkit was used by threat actors to redirect internet traffic to a custom proxy server. The rootkit is able to redirect both HTTP and HTTPS traffic. In the later case, it installs a custom root certificate to about browsers or to browsers warning of the unknown identity of the proxy server. The malware maintains a list of digital signatures used to detect drivers associated with NetFilter and FK_Undead malware families and prevent that they are loaded. Bitdefender identified several user mode binaries that are used to fetch and execute the malicious drivers onto the target machines. According to the experts, PHISHING uses 4 drivers, but at this time they have only detected 2 of them. Karma Ransomware is a new threat that was first spotted in June of 2021. It is important to distinguish it from a different threat with the same name that was active since 2016. Sentinel Labs researchers explored the links between the Karma Ransomware and other malware families such as Nemty and JS Worm. The researchers analyzed 8 samples using attacks that took place in June 2021 and analyzed them, finding important code similarities with some ransomware variants of Gangbang and Milpen that were active in the wild at least since January 2021. The analysis of the compilation dates of the samples suggests that Karma Ransomware is still under active development. The similarities between Karma and the above variants included the exclusion of extensions and folders and the presence of debugged messages. The experts conducted a bind if on Karma and Gangbang samples and noticed that the main function is quite similar. The analysis of the encryption process implemented in the sample analyzed revealed that the earlier ones were using the Cha-Cha-20 encryption algorithm, while the most recent samples were using the Salsa-20 algorithm. Like other ransomware operations, the Karma Gang has set up a leak site where they publish the stolen data of those victims that won't pay the ransom. Karma is a young and hungry ransomware operation. They are aggressive in their targeting and show no reluctance in following through with their threats. The apparent similarities to the JS Worm family are also highly notable, as it could be an indicator of the group being more than they appear. The rapid iteration over recent months suggests the actor is investing in developing and aims to be around for the foreseeable future, concludes the report that also includes indicators of compromise for the threat. Positive Technologies researcher Igor Sakovsky discovered a remote code execution vulnerability tracked to CVE 2021-35052 in the popular WinRAR trialware file archiver utility for Windows. The vulnerability affects the trial version of the utility. The vulnerability version is 5.70. This vulnerability allows an attacker to intercept and modify requests sent to the user of the application. This can be used to achieve remote code execution on a victim's computer. It has been assigned the CVE ID CVE 2021-35052, reads the post published by Sakovsky. We found this vulnerability by chance in WinRAR version 5.70. The researchers installed the software and noticed that it was producing a JavaScript error. The specific error indicates that the Internet Explorer engine is rendering this error window. After a series of tests, the expert noticed that after the trial period had expired, the software started displaying the error message 1 time out of 3 executions. This window used to display the error uses MS-HTML.dll implementation of Borland C++, in which WinRAR has been written. The expert used Burp Suite as a default Windows proxy to intercept traffic generated when the message is displayed. The analysis of the response code sent when WinRAR alerts the user about the end of the trial period via notifier.rarelab.com revealed that modifying it to a 301 moved permanently redirect message if was possible to cache the redirection to a malicious domain for any subsequent request. Experts also noticed that an attacker with access to the same network domain carry out ARP spoofing attacks to remotely launch applications, retrieve localhost information, and run arbitrary code. Experts pointed out that vulnerabilities in third-party software pose serious risks to organizations. They can be exploited to access any resource of the system and potentially of the network hosting it. It's impossible to audit every application that could be installed by a user, and so policy is critical to managing the risk associated with external applications and balancing this risk against the business need for a variety of applications. Improper management can have wide-reaching consequences, concluded the post. Evil Corp has launched a new ransomware called Macaw Locker to evade U.S. sanctions and prevent victims from making ransom payments. Believing Computer, citing MCSoft CTO Fabian Wozar, reported that the Macaw Locker ransomware is the latest rebrand of Evil Corp. The Macaw Locker ransomware encrypts victims' files and appends the .macaw extension to the file name of the encrypted files. The malware drops ransomware notes, macaw.recover_recovery.txt, in each folder. The ransom note includes the link to a unique victim negotiating page. The Evil Corp Cybercrime Group, aka Dridix Gang, Indrik Spider, the Dridix Gang, and TA505, has been active in cybercrime activity since 2007. The group started its operations by developing and distributing the infamous Dridix banking Trojan. Then it switched to ransomware operations by infecting victims' computer networks with the BitPaymer ransomware. In 2019, the U.S. Department of Justice has charged Russian citizens Maxim V. and Igor Turashev for distributing the infamous Dridix banking Trojan and for their involvement in international bank fraud and computer hacking schemes. The U.S. government announced sanctions for ransomware negotiation firms that will support victims of the Evil Corp group in the ransom payments. Due to these sanctions, Evil Corp launched several ransomware operations that employ different strains of ransomware, such as Wasted Locker, Hades, Phoenix Locker, and Payload Bin. The Macaw Locker was recently involved in attacks against Olympus and the Sinclair Broadcast Group. Bleeping Computer also reported that Macaw Locker operators demanded $28 million and $40 million ransom worth of Bitcoin in 2 separate attacks against unnamed companies. Experts speculate that after the exposure of the Macaw Locker operation, Evil Corp will rebrand their ransomware again. Researchers from TrendMicro have documented a recent evolution of the Purple Fox botnet. The experts discovered a new .NET backdoor dubbed Fox Socket that is highly associated with the Purple Fox operation. Its operators have added new exploits and payloads. According to the experts, the new variant leverages WebSockets to implement more secure command and control bidirectional communication. Currently, the new variant was employed in attacks aimed at users in the Middle East. The analysis of the command and control infrastructure revealed that the most notable activity is in the US, Turkey, UAE, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. The attack chain starts with the execution of PowerShell commands that fetch a malicious payload from URLs associated with multiple compromised servers. Most of the servers are located in China and belong to the infrastructure of the Purple Fox botnet. The payload fetched by the PowerShell targets 64-bit architecture systems. It is a long script consisting of 3 components. There's a tater, or hot potato, privilege escalation, powersploit, embedded exploit bundle binary, or privilege escalation. Upon executing the script, it will check the Windows version of the target host and the presence of patches for the following list of vulnerabilities: Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008, CVE 2021-1054, Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012, CVE 2019-1458, and Windows 10 and Windows Server 2019, CVE 2021-1732. After selecting the appropriate vulnerability, it uses the PowerSploit module to reflectively load the embedded exploit bundle binary with the target vulnerability and an MSI command as arguments. As a failover, it uses the tater module to launch the MSI command, reads the analysis published by TrendMicro. The goal is to install the MSI package as an admin without any user interaction. Tech giant Acer was hacked twice in a week. The same threat actor, Desorden, initially breached some of its servers in India. Now it is claiming to have also breached some systems in Taiwan. Last week, the company revealed that its after-sales service systems in India were hit by an isolated attack. The incident was disclosed after threat actors have advertised the sale of more than 60 gigabytes of data on an underground cybercrime forum. The threat actors now claim to have breached the servers of Acer Taiwan on October 15th and have stolen internal data including employee and production and product information. DeSorten compromised Acer for the second time in less than a week to demonstrate that the company is still exposed to cyber attacks to its negligence. He also claims that other servers in Asia of the company are still vulnerable. This is the third time Acer suffered a security breach. In March, the computer giant was hit by REvil ransomware operations and compromised the systems and requested the record $50 million ransom. While the threat actors claimed to have obtained information on customers, login credentials for retailers and distributors, and corporate and financial documents, the company pointed out only employees' data was exposed. A China-linked hacking group, tracked as Lightbasin, aka UNC1945, hacked mobile telephone networks around the globe and used specialized tools to access calling records and text messages from telecommunications companies. The cyber espionage group has been active since at least 2016, according to the CrowdStrike researchers. It is using a very sophisticated toolset. CrowdStrike researchers reported that at least 13 telecommunication companies were compromised since 2019. The campaign was uncovered by CrowdStrike by investigating a series of security incidents in multiple countries. The security firm added that the threat actors show an in-depth knowledge of telecommunications network architectures. The hacking group initially compromised one of the telecommunication companies by leveraging external DNS servers, which are part of the General Packet Radio Services Network. The eDNS are used in roaming between different mobile operators. Threat actors leveraged it to connect directly to and from other compromised telecommunication companies, GPRS networks via SSH, and through previously deployed implants. The group was able to target other telecommunications-specific systems, GPRS networks such as service delivery platform systems, and SIM-IMEI provisioning, as well as operations support systems and operation and maintenance units. CrowdStrike collected evidence of the use of password spraying attempts using extremely weak either third-party focused passwords like Huawei for the initial compromise. Once compromised, the eDNS servers, the attackers deployed a custom backdoor, tracked as Slapstick, that allowed them to access the Solaris pluggable authentication module. The implant was used by Lightbasin to steal passwords to access other systems and deploy additional implants. Experts pointed out that eDNS servers are protected from general external internet access by firewalls. For this reason, attackers sent commands to the ping pong implant via ICMP request from another compromised GPRS network infrastructure. Then the backdoor sets a TCP reverse shell to an IP address and port specified in the magic packet it has received. Lightbasin also added IP tables rules to the eDNS server to establish SSH access from 5 compromised companies. Additionally, the actor used a Trojanized version of the IP tables utility that removed output containing the first 2 octets from IP addresses belonging to other hacked companies, making it more difficult for admins to find the modified rules. Researchers noticed that Lightbasin uses a novel technique involving the use of SGSN emulation software for command and control connections, involving also the TinyShell open source backdoor. TinyShell is an open source Unix backdoor used by multiple adversaries. However, Lightbasin uniquely combined this implant with the publicly available SGSN emulator. Fraudsters are using the promise of love to lure victims into downloading fake cryptocurrency trading apps and then stealing their funds, researchers at Sophos reported. The ongoing campaign, which researchers have dubbed Crypto ROM, has targeted victims across Europe, the US, and Asia. In these scams, scammers using dating apps like Bumble, Tinder, and Grindr to build trust with a victim. They then move the conversation to a messaging app, where they ask victims to install a fake trading app. Fraudsters convince victims to invest in the app, ultimately stealing the funds. Thieves have managed to swipe nearly 1.4 million with the ruse, according to an analysis of a Bitcoin wallet one of the scammers used. Some 23,000 victims of romance scams reported more than 605 million in losses to the FBI in 2020. The new findings underscore how fraudsters are turning to Apple's developer programs in an attempt to evade the company's policies against side-loading apps. To cut down on users downloading malicious apps, Apple only allows users to download apps from its official App Store. Attackers have found a way around this by using Apple's program that allows developers to distribute apps that have not been approved by the App Store in a limited capacity for internal testing purposes. Sophos researchers first reported a similar campaign targeting Android and iOS users in Asia in May. Researchers believe the fraudulent apps are related. In order to trick the target into downloading the fake app, the attacker sends a link that opens a file, which will prompt the user to trust the program. The device browser then sends the victim to a page designed to look like the app store from which they can download the fake cryptocurrency app. The malicious apps also give the thieves access to more than just Bitcoin payments. At least one of the apps discovered by Sophos had an open directory that exposed a trove of personal information, including passport details and ID cards of nationals of Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, and China. Both international and U.S. law enforcement have warned about a massive spike in investing-related romance scams during the pandemic. Cryptocurrency scams using fake trading apps have also spiked in recent months. We move on to other security news. Zerodium is looking to pay for zero-day exploits for vulnerabilities in the Windows clients of 3 virtual private network service providers: ExpressVPN, NordVPN, and Surfshark. VPN services allow users to protect their anonymity when accessing resources online. They allow hiding the user's IP address by routing the connection through a network of servers used by the provider. Zerodium is searching for information disclosure, IP address leak, or remote code execution in the Windows VPN software of the 3 service providers. The company is not interested in local privilege escalation. The request is not surprising. The 3 providers are used by tens of millions of users worldwide, including cybercriminals. Zerodium will likely resell the zero-day exploits to law enforcement and intelligence agencies that will use them for their investigation into cybercriminal activities and operations carried out by nation-state actors. In July, Zerodium announced it was looking for zero-day exploits for VMware vCenter Server. vCenter Server is the centralized management utility for VMware and is used to manage virtual machines, multiple ESXi hosts, and all dependent components from a single centralized location. The company announced payouts up to $100,000 for 0 days in vCenter vSphere. In June, the zero-day exploit broker announced it was looking for zero-day exploits affecting the IM client tool Pigeon on Windows and Linux. The company payouts were up to $100,000 for 0 days in Pigeon, which is a free and open-source multi-platform instant messaging client. In December 2019, the virtual private network service provider NordVPN launched a public bug bounty program operated via the HackerOne platform. Researchers from Trustwave Spider Labs have released a decryptor that can allow victims of the Blackbyte ransomware to restore their files for free. The experts spotted the Blackbyte ransomware while investigating a recent malware incident. The analysis of the ransomware revealed that it was developed to avoid infecting systems that primarily use Russian or related languages. Unlike other ransomware that may have a unique key in each session, Blackbyte uses the same raw key to encrypt files, and it uses the symmetric key algorithm AES. Anyone that could access the raw key would be able to decrypt the files. The experts noticed that the ransomware fetches a .png file that embeds multiple keys and which is the same for all the victims. The researchers analyzed it to create a free decryptor. The ransomware also implements worm capabilities, and it crashes if the encryption key download fails. Experts noticed that the ransomware also sets its process priority class to above normal and uses set thread execution state API-M. This trick prevents the system from entering in sleep mode. Then the malware removes applications and terminates processes that can interfere with the encryption process. Blackbyte also terminates Racine anti-ransomware utility and removes it from the infected system. In order to prevent the victims from recovering the encrypted files, Blackbyte deletes all shadow copies in Windows restore points, deletes the recycle bin, disables the controlled folder access, enables file and printer sharing and network discovery, and enables the SMB1 protocol. Experts also noticed that the ransomware doesn't include exfiltration capabilities even if its operators claim to steal victims' data. The gangs behind the DarkSide and Black Matter ransomware operations have moved 107 Bitcoin for $6.8 million after the news of the recent shutdown of REvil's infrastructure by law enforcement agencies. The ransomware group REvil was itself hacked and forced offline this week by a multi-country operation, according to 3 private sector cyber experts working with the United States and 1 former official, reported the Reuters agency. We've heard this story now 3 or 4 times in this weekly. That's how important it is. Omri Sergev Boyal, CEO and co-founder of security firm Profera, told the Record that the threat actors split the funds into multiple wallets. The gang is likely moving the funds to cash out its profits. Moyal shared his findings with law enforcement. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the National Security Agency have published an advisory that provides details about the Black Matter ransomware operations and defense recommendations. This advisory provides information on tactics, techniques, and procedures associated with the ransomware gang that were obtained from the analysis of a sample of Black Matter ransomware, as well as from trusted third-party reporting. The Black Matter Group launched its operations at the end of July. The gang claims to be the successor of DarkSide and REvil groups. Like other ransomware operations, Black Matter also set up its leak site where it publishes data exfiltrated from the victims before encrypting their system. The launch of the Black Matter ransomware as a service was first spotted by researchers at Recorded Future, who also reported that the gang is setting up a network of affiliates using ads posted on 2 cybercrime forums, such as Exploit and XSS. The group is recruiting crooks with access to the networks of large enterprises which have revenues of $100 million a year or larger in an attempt to infect them with its ransomware. The group is looking for corporate networks in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Black Matter ransomware operators announced that they will not target healthcare organizations, critical infrastructure, organizations in the defense industry, and nonprofit companies. In August, the gang has implemented a Linux encryptor to target VMware ESXi virtual machine platforms. Black Matter operators have already hit numerous US-based organizations and have demanded ransomware payments ranging from $80,000 to $15 million in Bitcoin and Monero. Using embedded previously compromised credentials, Black Matter leverages the lightweight directory access protocol and server message block protocol to access the Active Directory to discover all hosts of on the network. Black Matter then remotely encrypts the hosts and shared drives as they are found. The sample analyzed by the researchers allowed them to discover that the ransomware operators used compromised administrator credentials to discover all the hosts in the victim's Active Directory. In order to list all accessible network shares for each host, the malicious code used Microsoft Remote Procedure Call function, serve service net share enum all, that allowed listing all accessible network shares for each host. Black Matter operators use a separate encryption binary for Linux-based machines that can encrypt ESXi virtual machines. The experts noticed that Black Matter operators wipe or reformat backup stores and appliances instead of encrypting backup systems. The alert also includes snort signatures that can be used by network defenders to detect the network activity associated with Black Matter. CISA, the FBI, and NSA urge network defenders to apply the following mitigations to reduce the risk of compromise by Black Matter ransomware. Implement detection signatures, use strong passwords, implement multi-factor authentication, patch and update systems, limit access to resources over the network, implement network segmentation and traversal monitoring, use admin disabling tools to support identity and privileged access management, implement and enforce backup and restoration policies and procedures. The U.S. agencies also urge critical infrastructure organizations to apply the following additional mitigations. Disable the storage of clear text passwords in LSAS memory. Consider disabling or limiting new technology local area network and W-Digest authentication. Implement Credential Guard for Windows 10 and Server 2016. Enable Protected Process Light for Local Security Authority, and minimize the Active Directory attack surface. Facebook announced to have designed a new tool named SSRF Dashboard that allows security researchers to search for server-side request forgery vulnerabilities. Server-side request forgery is a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to induce the server-side application to make HTTP requests to an arbitrary domain chosen by the attacker. In a typical SSRF attack, the attacker might cause the server to make a connection to an internal only services within the organization's infrastructure. In other cases, they may be able to force the server to connect to arbitrary external systems, potentially leaking sensitive data such as authorization credentials. SSRF Dashboard allows researchers to create unique internal endpoint URLs that could be targeted by SSRF attacks and determine if they have been hit. The tool allows researchers to test their SSRF proof of concept code. Pentesters could report any SSRF flat to the company by including the ID of the SSRF attempt URL that they used along with their POC. The Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security would introduce a new export control rule aimed at banning the export or resale of hacking tools to authoritarian regimes. The rule announced by the BIS tightens export controls on technology that could be used by adversaries to conduct malicious cyber activities and surveillance of private citizens, resulting in human rights abuse. The rule will become effective in 90 days and will ban the export of cybersecurity items for national security and anti-terrorism reasons. Specifically, this rule establishes a new control on these items for national security and anti-terrorism reasons, along with a new license exception authorized cybersecurity exports that authorizes exports of these items to most destinations except in the circumstances described. These items warrant controls because these tools could be used for surveillance, espionage, or other actions that disrupt, deny, or degrade the network of devices on it. Reads the announcement published by the Bureau of Industry and Security Commerce. The new license exception authorized cybersecurity exports would allow the export, re-export, and transfer in country of cybersecurity items to most destinations, while retaining a license requirement for exports to countries of national security or weapons of mass destruction concern. The license will be required for those countries subject to a U.S. arms embargo. The complete list includes states of weapons of mass destruction or national security concern or subject to a U.S. arms embargo. The rule is consistent with the result of BIS's negotiations in the Wassenaar Arrangement, multilateral export control regime, and results from a review of comments from Congress, the private sector, academia, civil society, and other stakeholders. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina M. Raimondo explained that the new rule aims at preventing the use of this technology by threat actors that could hit U.S. computer networks, threaten U.S. national security. With that, I say thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.